As we mic up, there you go. Sorry for any delay there. Update. On the download. Crazy. Good evening, viewers. Just talking about interesting news. Through. Tonight, we're embarking on an extraordinary journey through the evolving landscape of healthcare, where innovation meets compassion and science blends seamlessly with human touch. As we delve into the Pharmacist Frontline segment, remember, pharmacists are more than just dispensers of medication. They are the unsung heroes, the compassionate healers, bridging the gap between patients and the complex world of medicine. We're going to hop over the ocean and take a good look across the pond as to 7 of the newest clinical services pharmacists are able to provide over there. Anyways, tonight we'll explore how their roles are expanding, revolutionizing patient care, and shaping the future of healthcare. In our tech talk, prepare to be mesmerized by the electrifying advances in cancer therapy. We're talking cutting-edge technology that's not just treating, but transforming our approach to this formidable disease. Imagine a world where cancer treatment is as simple as a patch on your skin, painless and powerful. During Enlightenment Hour, let's navigate the intricate pathways of our minds. We'll decode the emotional brain and how it feels like it feeds us fake news, and frame it in an interesting way that impacts the decision-making, executive functioning of us and our lives. Together, guys, we're going to learn how to harness the power of emotional intelligence for clarity, growth, and success. And the Herbal Wellness Corner is sponsored by High Horse Cannabis Company. We're redefining the cannabis experience. Guys, it's not just about getting high. It's about optimizing health outcomes, whether it's to relax, uplift, or energize. The words around that are very important. So join us as we explore how different strains cater to distinct needs, making cannabis a versatile ally in our wellness journey. Our community spotlight, guys, shines on the inspiring initiatives of New Mexico State University's Engineering Student Council. Witness how they're igniting the sparks of innovation in young minds, paving the way for a brighter, more innovative future. And in our Men's Health Minute, we tackle a topic often shrouded in silence: andropause. It's time to bring this conversation into light, understanding its impact and exploring effective strategies for health and well-being. So get ready to be informed, inspired, and invigorated. This is not just a live stream, it's a movement towards a healthier, more informed world. Your participation makes all the difference, so let's embark on this journey together, learning, growing, and transforming healthcare one insight at a time. Guys, welcome to Know Your Pharmacist. Happy Wednesday evening, end of January. I know some of us were ready to get out of January. Some of us, January happened so fast, it's like, wow, here we are. So I feel. Guys, so we're hopping across the pond in our Pharmacist Frontline segment. Interesting, 7 conditions local chemist, otherwise known as a pharmacist, can treat. Interesting, right? So, guys, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and now England, under the new Pharmacy First scheme, can actually carry out consultations and issue antibiotics and, prescribe for 7 common ailments. So very interesting here. When you're looking at, the prescriptive authority of the pharmacist, here in New Mexico, we are getting some more advanced prescriptive authority where you are going to see pharmacists being able to do a little bit more test to treat strep, COVID, right? RSV, things like that are going to be out there. But, this is pretty cool that the Pharmacy First, scheme over in England is already helping to reduce that burden of healthcare access, and they rolled it out. So, antibiotics, sure, but where you really think about the burden that they're seeing overseas to use pharmacists to really help with clinical services there. Medication for shingles, sore throat, earache, sinusitis, impetigo, infected insect bites, uncomplicated UTIs. I mean, it's pretty cool. So I think you just kind of understand the amount of healthcare, access that still needs to be freed up, right? Millions of GP appointments overseas. So pretty crazy. I'm sure you'll continue to see pharmacists expand their abilities to provide services for things like this. But in terms of actually getting paid for that, that's where that part starts getting, pretty muddy pretty fast. So where you could be progressive unless the system doesn't kind of start letting the providers even work at the top of their license, then you're fighting for things like these. So, pretty cool. Little shout out to the overseas pharmacy first scheme out in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. Pharmacists supplying medication for sore throat, earache, sinusitis, impetigo, shingles, infected insect bites, uncomplicated UTIs, and not bad, right? Guys, let's move on to our Tech Talk segment. Let's talk a little bit about cancer therapy. Electrified microneedles get vaccine across the skin for cancer immunotherapy. Guys, talk about, cancer treatments and just the sort of, things we should be expecting, perhaps even the need for getting all kinds of infusions that make cancer treatment absolutely miserable. How can a microneedle perhaps truly help administer medication? So showing here in this advanced science news article here, talking about getting messages across the skin. So your body, a collective individual, cell growing, producing, and even dying on command to keep it running. Like we are just moving through it, guys. And when you look at it, that's where cancer starts to get formed, because when the cells go rogue in their processes, tumors get formed, tumors spread, they manipulate whether or not a DNA change causes that mutation to happen. We get cancer. So this is pretty cool because researchers over at the Zhejiang, I don't even know how to pronounce it, university in China, talking about dealing with these insurrections of the body and talking about how microneedle skin patches and an electrical current painlessly vaccinate against tumors and cancers of the skin. So it's saying through that, the immune response can be kick-started to combat and even prevent cancer, a well-known therapeutic approach known as immunotherapy. So guys, talking about microneedling and a virtually painless vaccine delivery, a lot of cancer, medication, even administration can be intimidating, guys. So very interesting. So the vaccine delivery system works by specifically targeting what's called dendritic cells that naturally ingest any foreign particles, carrying them to immune cells located in the body's lymph nodes and spleen. There, those cells break down the pathogens and present distinct markers on their surface as if on a platter to T cells that then track the pathogen down. But it's just very interesting, right? Because you have to get those dendritic cells to be basically stimulated, and through this electrical current microneedling, they've created a way to kind of clap back on cancer there. So going to be all sorts of crazy cures here in the future, and or therapies. But I think it's worth highlighting just how it works. Like this is talking about treatment in melanoma, and we know that's a very common one here, guys. Skin cancer. Southern New Mexico, a lot of sun, even places with just a lot of UV light, maybe not a lot of perceived sunlight, very common things. So all good things. Let's jump on to an interesting segment here, guys. All right, Enlightenment Hour. So I like the read because, when you frame things in a particular way, it's interesting, the way obviously it's processed, right? And so, listen to this and tell me what you think, right? Go through maybe some of those compartments in your mind as, I read this story from Karena Kilcoyne. I don't even know how to pronounce the author's name, but she's got this trauma book, and it's an interesting way that she frames it, right? So let's look. As a child, my story defined me. When I was 12, my father went to the federal penitentiary, leaving my family poverty-stricken and me to care for my mentally unstable mother and 3 siblings. After my mother died, I adopted my 9-year-old brother and graduated from law school at the age of 24. While I have dedicated my career to fighting for the freedom of others, I've also wrestled with self-doubt and suffered from depression and anxiety. What I have learned is that our brain and our nervous systems often work together to create limiting stories. Imagine your brain is a newsroom that's constantly receiving information and determining what's factual and newsworthy. Ideally, your emotional brain would gather questionable information and send it upstairs to the thinking brain for processing. The thinking brain would then logically analyze it, consider the source of the information, and determine how and when the information should be reported. Now, imagine that the reporters working in the emotional brain department go rogue and they refuse to send any information upstairs to the thinking brain. Instead, they hoard all the information, processing it themselves based on past emotional experiences instead of logic, without verifying whether sources of the information are credible. The emotional brain reporters filter information through a muddied lens of past traumatic news, causing them to sense danger at every turn. These reporters then write a news story, and the undercurrent of which is doom and gloom. The article is anything but objective. Instead, it reeks of subjectivity. It's literally fake news. In a state of panic, they ascertain that the only way to ensure safety is a complete emotional lockdown. Without fact-checking the story, the reporters signal the rest of the workers, the nervous system, to go on high alert. The workers flood the network, your body, with breaking news alerts of the story, blaring an annoying, high-pitched beep and issuing warnings on all fronts. Danger, danger! The fight, flight, or freeze response is engaged. Overly stimulated by the alarms, the emotional brain begins to believe its own fake news and eases into its perceived security of its chaotic, closed-off existence, making way for a dysregulated nervous system. By now, the emotional brain has completely disengaged from the smart guy upstairs in the thinking brain. Believing that it knows how to protect you and keep you safe, the emotional brain will isolate you from your true self. To do this effectively, they will use its best weapons: fear, doubt, shame, and uncertainty. It will run discouraging messages that prevent you from following your dreams, finding peace, and being vulnerable. Your emotional brain chatter will sound something like this: don't say that, no one will like it. Or, don't do that, you'll make a fool of yourself. Or, don't fall for that person, they'll never love you back. Or, don't forgive that person, they deserve your hatred and resentment. What better way to ensure your survival, especially after being traumatized by what is supposed to be love, than to keep you as far away from love as possible? To ensure it's doing its job, the emotional brain will write a story of unworthiness so convincing you will shun vulnerability and intimacy. So while you might be safe, you also live a small life foregoing love, joy, and deep connection. We're also lonely, sad, and entrenched in a cycle of limitation and scarcity. When we're in this pattern, breaking free can feel undoable, but it's not. We just have to do it one step at a time. Our ultimate goal in healing is to create awareness around our trauma and the story our emotional brain wrote about it. We must also level up our thinking game by processing the suppressed emotions trapped in the emotional brain and sending them upstairs to the thinking brain. Integration supposed to bring us a much better inner peace and harmony. So, guys, rising above our story means rising above the stories created in the emotional brain. Rising above means we thrive in the sweet spot of conscious awareness and mindfulness, where we no longer allow the emotional brain to reactively determine our mood and worthiness. We'll no longer let the past define who we are. It may seem impossible, but it's not, I promise. We will get there. All you need at this point is an awareness that trauma is the origin of your story and an understanding that your emotional brain to protect you harnessed the pain of your trauma and wrote a false story that you're unworthy of love and happiness. The rest, dear reader, unfolds in due time. So, shout out to Karena Kilcoyne on the framework there. I think it's a quite touching, dictation because, whether it's processing the world around us in real time, processing a past event, processing a future event, right? We do have our amygdala, right? Where it's a little peanut portion, front center part of the brain where, you are your lower level self to those degrees. You experience PTSD, you experience, chronic trauma, and to escape that, to jump out of there into your prefrontal cortex and to be using, all the higher parts of the brain, right, to efficiently calculate these things. It's an always ever evolving concept, but I think that story right there in terms of frameworking it is a very relatable thing because we can so easily see when it comes to news and headlines how headlines can so often get you into a state of panic or a state of excitement or whatever those are, which is totally cool or not. However, if your brain has things muddled where headlines are past chunks and bits of past, perhaps traumatic experiences, it will affect decision making, it will affect processing, and the way that perception of things gets created, is also something to just be able to look at, release and address. But whether you describe it as a fake news entity, whether you look at the science of, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, whether you're, whatever way you want to look at these kinds of perceptions, right? Neuroplasticity, the ability for the mind to create new plastic patterns, new senses of awareness, right? These are ways to recognize perhaps that emotional lower level brain in terms of a decision making process, when you've got your logical side of your brain that may actually really be a much more needed place to consider. So always, again, in our Enlightenment Hour, we just want to find new ways to make new connections in how we look at things that just might make things a little easier. So I like it. Cool stuff. Guys, Herbal Wellness Corner, jumping into it. Sponsored by High Horse Cannabis Company tonight. Guys, so putting a lot of work into my role as the director of training at High Horse Cannabis Company. I'm absolutely, of course, constantly thinking about how people are, using cannabis, why they use it, how to apply that in terms of, educating our bud tenders. I'm the director of training there, and one of the more interesting concepts for me there is, the concept of cannabis flower, because, in terms of discussing, therapeutic benefits and clinical benefits of cannabis flower. I don't think that conversation happens a lot when, you know, you are selling inhalables or flower smokables as often as you would have maybe a deep clinical conversation, which are obviously not going to be the majority of conversations. So, just really taking a look at the consumer and educational value of what transactional effects and like dream outcomes people achieve with smoking cannabis, inhaling cannabis, that is far beyond the term of get high. That's something that is important for me to definitely ponder on, consider, and want to help reframe and reshape as well, because I think although flower, right, is going to be your most dominant part of the market share in the cannabis market in the country, actually having interesting, thoughtful conversations around therapeutic benefit in regards to maybe the traditional stigma of how people maybe used cannabis before in the black market, where it was illegal, right? People have been using it, right, since Woodstock before, of course, and you're looking at all those different silent uses of cannabis. I think it's a very, very important place to find yourself, to go and try to redefine, what entirely that means. So anyways, we came up with what we call basically we call it Rogue, and it's an acronym to consider outcomes people want when they are using flower. And so I really think it's an important thing, because the word get high is just frustrating, right? So think of these 5 words: relax, or unwinding, indulging, sleeping, optimizing, just a bit of energy to help focus; grooving, enhancing casual conversations and abstract thinking; uplifting, right, giving you a boost in activities or mental focus, right? Or energizing, right, using the strains to charge up for something. And so, you do think about the different transactional effects there. Those words and vernacular in and of themselves are just much more powerful and therapeutic than and positive than get high. And so those words get high have, that those are probably one of the top remaining phrases in our cannabis industry that is tied to, probably our top selling product, or just, at least THC effects as well. So I think that's one of those that's hanging in there that might be just hurting the industry more than helping it, the term get high. So, even if somebody's not necessarily looking at 100% therapeutic outcomes and like having a broken spine or something, guys, relaxing, optimizing, grooving, uplifting, energizing, man, so many different words that would be much more healing in nature and balancing. And yeah, I'm gonna say it again. All right. So Herbal Wellness Corner brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company. That was that. Shop High Horse, guys. You already know. Community Spotlight brought to you by the Baked Chicken Farm, showing you guys here. Mexico State University Engineering Day Showcase. Cool deal here. Wanted to shout out this community event. High school students enthusiastic about innovation and curious about careers in engineering. The College of Engineering at New Mexico State University offers 23 undergraduate and graduate degree programs. But here, February 19th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., the Engineering Day Showcase to explore the opportunities with hands-on workshops, demonstrations, and informative tours. Check out the, what engineers are doing, talk to students, faculty, staff. Guys, everybody who's around here knows New Mexico State University is a top engineering school in the country, for sure. If you're not from around here, you're seeing that. Sorry about it. Gotta come on down. All right. Let's jump into the last segment here, guys. Talk about andropause in our Men's Health Minute. Understanding and exploring male menopause. So what's andropause? The natural related decline in testosterone and growth hormone levels in men. Several terminologies have been used to refer to andropause, including male menopause, male climacteric androgen deficiency in aging males, ADAM, ADAM, viropause, and partial androgen deficiency in aging males, EADAM, ADAM. Now, the World Congress on Aging Male in Prague, 2004, and the World Health Organization in Paris described the male menopause as two definitive terms, namely late onset hypogonadism, or LOH, and the aging male syndrome. So guys, the word andropause has been derived from the Greek word andros, meaning human male, and pause meaning cessation. Therefore, andropause refers to a condition where men experience a decrease in sexual satisfaction or overall decline in well-being due to low testosterone levels in older men. In 1946, the andropause syndrome was first described as the male climacteric, which was characterized by decreased libido, nervousness, irritability, erectile dysfunction, reduced potency, fatigue, reduced muscle mass and strength, hair loss, hot flushes, memory problems, depression, and sleep disturbances. Hypogonadism is the main cause of the clinical symptoms of andropause, in contrast to menopause, well-characterized and timely process linked to absolute gonadal failure. Andropause is a more subtle androgen deficiency with slow progression. LOH, or functional hypogonadism, is characterized by a low blood testosterone concentration. Besides old age, andropause also exhibits in men who lose their testicular function due to disease or accidents. The syndrome has been observed in men with advanced prostate cancer who undergo surgical or medical castration. So let's talk about it, right? Testosterone levels in male menopause. Testosterone, the main androgen hormone responsible for male sex characteristics, hence the alteration in testosterone levels affects the psychological and sexual functions, and body composition of the male. Massachusetts Male Aging Study, MMAS, and the New Mexico Aging Study revealed that inadequate testosterone levels in older men and other anabolic hormones increased mortality risk. New Mexico Aging. Testosterone levels decreased at the rate of 1% per year with aging. It must be noted that the rate of testosterone decline varies with people depending on multiple factors, including emotional distress, chronic disease, medications, and obesity. The decline rate can be effectively decelerated by managing health and lifestyle factors. In aging men, the decline in testosterone levels is mainly due to a reduction in Leydig cell mass in the testicles, a dysfunction in the hypothalamic pituitary, homeostatic control, or both. These conditions lead to a slow secretion of luteinizing hormones and subsequent low testosterone production. Although the decline in testosterone levels in males occurs gradually, it is most prominent between 40 and 55 years. Imperative to address the adverse health effects linked to andropause to protect aging male population from major health issues, including disabilities and morbidity. Guys and girls, right? Menopause versus andropause, mood swings, depression, headaches, night sweats, insomnia, weight gain, bone loss. Guys and girls, we all share that as we age. Looking forward to it. Males, decreased motivation, lack of focus, low energy, muscle loss, mild to moderate erectile dysfunction, and muscle loss, guys. There definitely can be some andropause going on. So in terms of the levels, you can have your levels adjusted so long as you're not on certain medications, spironolactone, opioid analgesics, antidepressants, Joxin for the heart. But it can get treated, it can get supplemented. You can go up to like 1,500 nanomoles per liter. Anywhere in that probably 500 range is really where men are going to be really wanting to at least hit, especially if they're low, right? If you're low, you're definitely under 220. So, that 500 plus range is going to be a good range. So, a lot of myths around it. Male menopause, guys. Break down this video for y'all. Right here.
Male menopause is much different than menopause in women. It's a term used to describe the effect of testosterone levels in men as they age. We sit down with Community Medical Center's internal medicine physician, Dr. Alan Kelton, to learn more. Male menopause involves a decrease of testosterone in the body.
Women will have a cessation of menses, right, and they will have a change in their hormone systems that seems fairly rapid for some, slow for others, whereas men have a slow decline in male hormone or testosterone over time.
Testosterone is a hormone that plays a significant role in men's health, and like many factors in the body, it can decrease with age.
Low testosterone is fairly common, and actually for men that are overweight and in their 40s, about 1 in 3 men may have it. And then certainly by the time a man is 70, about 30% of men will have measurably low testosterone levels. The most common symptoms are all sexual. A decrease in libido. Libido is desire for sex. Fewer morning erections and difficulty with erectile functioning.
However, low testosterone may not always be the primary cause of male menopause.
My initial advice is to really think about your lifestyle, because if a man is not sleeping well, is not eating well, is overweight, and not exercising, they're going to have all of the symptoms of low male hormone. And it turns out by reversing many of those things, getting at least 7 hours of sleep, making sure it's productive and restful sleep, getting in good exercise that builds muscles, and also having a good diet that is low in sugar that can also help reduce belly fat, or if they have a beer belly, reduce the beer belly, testosterone levels can improve. For men that qualify and actually accept treatment, about 9 in 10 men after a year of treatment will stop receiving treatment.
Dr. Kelton says testosterone therapy can be done in many ways.
The treatment is hormone replacement using testosterone, and testosterone can be replaced in many different ways. Injections, creams, there's even a tablet a man can put in his mouth, and men can get pellets installed, and the pellets will slowly release testosterone over a period of weeks or months. And so there's many different ways, but it's all the same treatment.
However, Dr. Kelton says hormone therapy is not for every patient.
If a man has these symptoms, all the sexual symptoms, low sexual desire, fewer morning erections, difficulty with erections, and they've had head trauma, or if they're having headaches, if they've had a change in vision, that is something that really needs to be evaluated on an urgent basis. But for most men with low testosterone, a decent evaluation can take place over weeks or so.
That's why it's important to check with your primary care provider to understand the risks before treatment.
The testosterone itself seems to contribute to plaquing of the coronary arteries, for example. You can get some increased cholesterol buildup, or at least on a temporary basis. A man can also have an increase in their blood counts, and sometimes at such a high level, they may increase the risk of stroke. And then if a man has sleep apnea, they'll have more sleep apnea with testosterone replacement therapy.
And above all, set expectational boundaries of testosterone hormone therapy before considering treatment.
And I think testosterone is both oversold as a fountain of youth, and I like to tell my patients there is no happiness hormone for both men or women. It's important to live a good lifestyle, and if you think you have a condition that needs treatment, please see a physician. It's very important.
So, attacking that, guys, in multiple different ways there. Everybody's labs, everybody's nature of everything is going to be very different. Guys talked a little bit about lab work earlier this week, talked about comprehensive lab work for males and making sure, we get to know our numbers, right? Whether it's hormones, blood pressure, I'm sure most of us are relatively aware of our height and weight, but do you know your liver function? Do you know your iron levels? Some of these other things, definitely get the labs done, adjust as needed. Otherwise, guys, have a good